Coffee here at the Coffee Break. How you doing? So today I want to talk about something that is actually it's like a little embarrassing for me to talk about because I think in terms of my exterior, it would be assumed that it's not really a thing that I deal with, but it's actually something that like I really have to work on, and that is being a little too sensitive. So it's funny, I'm one of 4 kids and I have a million reasons to have thick skin and to be fairly like easygoing. But like one day I looked up and I was just like, gosh, like so many things hurt my feelings, or like, gosh, like I can't believe that happened. And I realized I'm walking around with like a spirit of offense or whatever. So it kind of, if we can just kind of chit chat today, it kind of got to the point where I just kind of started thinking about it more, and I was like, what's going on? Like, what is that? Because the actual trigger for it was, I think after the year that I had last year, I started becoming like much more reflective and more observant of everything, like almost to a fault. So if I'm in certain situations or if I come across new people, which for some reason this year has just been like a lot of new people like back to back to back. And it's interesting because regardless of how many new people I'm coming across, at some point in conversation I noticed a pattern that even if it's like completely unwarranted, that people will mention an offense that's taken place, like something that's happened to them, and it could have happened a year ago, 6 months ago, however, but it's something like they're still holding on to and they still are having difficulty letting go of. And it's funny because I told myself about a week ago, it actually has taken me too long to get to this, but we had a Mia's Closet event, and ironically, maybe not ironically, as soon as I made the decision to make this post on the spirit of offense, like I was in a good zone when I like had that idea. I was like, oh, I could talk about something kind of neutral. It was like I got hit back to back to back to back to back. I mean, like literally back to back to back with stuff that just like, gosh, like what the heck is going on? Like what's happening? And I got thrown into all these situations where I like was getting offended by people like left and right, and I was like, is it because of the coffee break chat? Like, is it just life? Is like my life a joke? Like, what is it? And it could be a number of things, but what I really think it comes down to is it's just part of life. And I think that for any person who's conscious, however you want to describe it, at some point the goal is to be able to really let stuff roll off your back and to not take things so personally. And I got some advice a while back that has stayed with me, and I wish I remember the person who said it. I'm sorry if you're watching, you're probably like annoyed that I'm not going to give you your credit, but it was something along the lines of like, don't take anything personally, like it's not about you, which is like kind of a good safeguard, because even if it really is you, like even if you're the reason why the person like has treated you some kind of way, there are just so many different layers to interaction and communication. And I think that it's important to take that into consideration when things happen, because very few things are just one-dimensional where it's just one-way communication back and forth. Normally there are different things that can play a part. It could be emotional state, it could be finances, it could be, things going on with family, it could be a million different things, and it's just really difficult to know. And the reason why I want to talk about this at this time in particular is because we're coming up on the end of the year, and it's really important not to carry old baggage with you into a new year. And I know that, it being a new year is kind of a theory. Like if we didn't know it was a new year, it would just be maybe just another day. But I say that because in a way, the new year does kind of give you a sense of an opportunity to have a fresh start and to, leave baggage in the past. And I say that for a number of reasons. For starters, it gives you the mental space to have room for positive things, whether that's like goals that you want to achieve in the new year, whether that's financial goals that you've set for yourself, job, like professional goals that you've set for yourself, relationship goals that you've set for yourself. I mean, there are just so many different areas of life that we need to be thoughtful about when it comes to that emotional tie sometimes that you can carry in regard to things that have like rubbed you the wrong way, people that have offended you. So no, the magic isn't maybe that one day you're going to look up and you're just not going to be sensitive anymore. It's more so about not letting that stuff go with you into a new season. And this doesn't even have to be just because it's a new year. Like, it could just literally be like, today is the last day that I'm going to be hung up about that boyfriend. Today is that last day that I'm going to be hung up about that boss. Today's the last day that I'm going to be hung up about a family member who, you know, is kicking me. And it's tricky because some things are environmental, right? So it's like, if you say, for instance, the person who offends you all the time happens to be your mom, or happens to be your dad, or happens to be a sibling. Those are ongoing relationships. So yeah, it's tricky. I mean, especially if it's not just like a one-time thing that maybe occurred, it's like an ongoing thing. So that's why I kind of wanted to give, you know, just a few little nuggets on ways that I have tried to manage being a fairly sensitive person. Because when it comes down to it, like, it can eat you alive. And that's worst case scenario. So let's talk about it. Very first thing that I want to recommend is give people the benefit of the doubt. Don't assume that just because maybe somebody snapped at you or said something ugly or, you know, kind of rubbed you the wrong way means that it was a personal attack on you. We have no idea at any point in time whether somebody's in a good mood or a bad mood, where the energy behind that is coming from, unless they actually tell you. So if you find yourself in a situation where maybe somebody didn't speak to you, or someone didn't respond to you in a way that you thought was fair, or maybe they just went off on you and you were so surprised, give them the benefit of the doubt. And it doesn't even have to be a conversational thing. Just give them the benefit of the doubt that their response to you or that their engagement with you had nothing to do with you. Just take it as a grain of salt, keep moving, and leave it there. The next thing I want to say is, to a certain extent, being sensitive has to do with an entitlement factor, right? So be willing to consider that maybe you feel that way because you think too highly of yourself. And the reason why I'm not saying that like as if you should not feel good about yourself. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that if you think you're a princess, or if you're a diva, or whatever, you might have to take into consideration, like, everybody else may not see you like that. You know what I mean? So if you expect, you know, the red carpet to be rolled out every time you get somewhere, or you expect, you know, who knows what, at some point you have to take into consideration that normal people don't engage that way. Like, at some point you have to be willing to, you know, not lower your standards just in life, but have different expectations of even what you should expect in terms of just regular everyday engagement. Also, number 3, be willing to put yourself out there. So many times, being offended or offenses or whatever you want to call it, they really do stem from poor communication. So think about this, for instance, you walk into a party or you go to an event and you see somebody there and you don't speak to them, and y'all are in the same room and you know each other, and you're like walking home with a friend, or you're in the car and you're telling them, or a family member, whomever, about how they didn't speak to you. And it's interesting because it's like, well, did you speak to them? Or like, friends have a falling out, and it's like, I'm so upset because I haven't heard from so-and-so in forever, and if she was my real friend, she would have called me right now. It's like, well, you could call her too. So it's just, you know, put your pride aside and be willing to pick up the phone. Like, if you miss someone, pick up the phone, call them, tell them. Don't have any expectations out of what you're going to get from it. Just be willing to communicate that, put it on the table, and leave it. If they respond well to it, they respond well to it. If they, you know, still are hanging on to whatever thing, you know, move on. But at least be willing to say that, like, at least I tried. And last but not least, pray about it. Pray about everything. But especially when it comes to the spirit of offense, pray about it, because the best thing that you can do is be consistent. Whether that's being consistent in prayer, being consistent in terms of how you act when you get somewhere. Don't be like cool sometimes and like, you know, I don't want to be bothered at other times. Like, be consistent. Like, the best thing you can do is hold up what your actual like public face is, and your friendship face, and your relationship face is. And then if nothing else, you can say like, well, you know, like you get the same thing every time. I don't know what to tell you. We just have to work on it. So anyway, that was kind of all over the place, but I definitely want to talk about that because, you know, it just gets to a point where it's like, do you really want to carry that with you forever? At some point, you just have to say, enough is enough, and I'm moving on. Hey guys, so in close, I want to share this quote with you. It's by Pastor Kevin Gerald. He's out of Seattle, actually, and he's a phenomenal minister, and I actually really value him for a number of reasons. One, I have this whole thing that I always use the hashtag path-minded, and he talks about like having a path-minded mindset and that everything good is on the path. So anytime I'm like trying to hit the reset button or get back on, I think of being path-minded, that I want to ask God to help me stay on the path. And the other thing is he talked about the spirit of offense. So I'm going to read the quote to you very fast, and hopefully it'll be something that'll stay with you and resonate in your spirit. The quote goes as follows: "The opportunity to be offended will present itself on a daily basis. It will commonly come your way, and if you take the bait, you can become so entrenched in offenses that it's hard to get back on the path once you've allowed an offense to get in your spirit. That's why you've got to forgive people. That's why you've got to think the best about people. A wise man overlooks. You've got to choose to say, I'm not going to let that thing get in my heart or my spirit." Pastor Kevin Gerald. So anyway, I really hope that that's helpful. Like I said, it's not, you know, a secret magic trick. It's not something that I think would happen overnight. It's just one of those things where it's like once you recognize it and you identify it, you're like, this is not my story, I'm letting it go, and that's the end of it. So if you like what you heard, share it. If you would like to get more from us, subscribe at the Coffee Break, and you can follow me on social media, Instagram and Twitter at Chelsea_Alexa. I hope you guys have a wonderful, amazing new year. Thank you so much for watching, and be blessed in 2015. Take care.